All right, Kristen, thanks so much. Taking a live look at Manitowoc. They're creating a new way to make sure issues at intersections get addressed.
It's a sort of rule book that decides when the city can add or change intersection controls and how you can apply to possibly get it changed. Here's how it works. Anyone can submit a form to ask the Manitowoc Public Works Department to review a specific intersection. You can recommend how you think it could be fixed, like with a stop sign or crosswalk. And then city officials would gather data from the area, like monitoring speed of cars versus the posted speed limit or past crash history.
They compare that data to state averages and make a decision on whether or not to submit a request to the Public Safety Committee. Officials will discuss this process in more detail tonight at the village's Public Works Committee meeting that is set for 5:30. We're checking in with